Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Bordweall Broadcasting Company. We have as our guests this evening Cynric and Renegade. If you guys want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Renegade, sometimes known as Tiny Dragon. I'm here.
Howdy, I'm Cynric. I'm well. Happy to be.
Cool. Awesome. We invited Cynric. I think it was kind of like a mutual thing. Cynric asked if he could be on the BBC, and we certainly wanted him to be here. We wanted to, I guess, it was around about 2 weeks ago that Solaris declared kind of like its intent to be independent and to secede from Kairos once the game starts, and kind of like in practice right now already, I would presume that you guys have kind of like are in that mentality of already having seceded. Cynric, if you'll kind of like, outline again what it is you've done and why you've done it, and if anything has changed in kind of like in the last 2 weeks as to how you might have introduced things, or any drama, the resulting drama. We can save the drama for another once you've answered the other questions, I guess, and we'll get into that.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so myself, Boxman, who leads Galadorn, Shadow, who leads Acrium, and Coco Sip, who leads Seraphim, and myself, I lead Cremoria. We're all originally part of Kairos, either Dukes or part of high leadership in Kairos. We broke away mostly because a lot of leadership was either absent or didn't particularly care to point. We obviously do not have that same view. We view this is actually part of the game. The game starts now. Still aren't necessarily willing to engage currently, as much as we would want. Over the past 2 years that I've been part of Kairos has been quite. I always heard back whenever trying to recruit was, aren't you the guys with the AFK King and the AFK leadership? Why would I risk my group working with you guys which I didn't. And so a lot of people that I was trying to recruit, and because we were sorely needing it because we were so small in comparison, I was constantly getting turned away. Reputation Kairos had, and the stigma that we had no presence. I if I wanted to get any agendas passed or have any discussions, because we had no other relay that was doing it. So we were missing out on a lot of politics. We were missing out on recruits, and all around activity was dwindling. My own guys were getting more and more upset with me that I was sticking with it, and they were basically yelling at me like, "Why are we staying with Kairos? And if you continue staying with Kairos, we're all gonna leave." So it a number of different sources, and eventually we decided, let's just fuck it and make our own thing. And we've been working on it since December. Because if you remember, D&SS was supposed to release around then, so we had paid to release. So in some regards, documents you see that have been posted, the recruitment posts and all of that got done within a month. All the artwork, everything else got done. We were funded, of course, over time, but everything you're seeing basically was done in December of 2018. And so once we did that, then we seceded. So we are officially, in our mindset, broken away. We're our own separate confederation of duchies. We don't declare ourselves like we have no king. We are instead 4 dukes that all have equal votes and equal share in our success, or officially broke away 2 weeks ago and declared ourselves our own independent power. And that's basically the short version of what happened and why that you were asking about.
Cool. Thank you for that summary, mate. How would you say, fill us in on, so we know now kind of like, why, and it kind of like confirms, what you had said, in your own stream previously about Solaris. What has kind of like transpired in the 2 weeks? What's it been like? Has it kind of like been mainly favorable? Have you been getting heroes? What's been going on?
There's been a couple of people from Kairos that have been needling us. We are all taking in good spirits. Our will remain true for the. We have no ill will towards Kairos. We wish them the best. We have no desire to instigate any wars if they leave. Obviously, if they cause stuff and deal with it that when we have to, but the preference really is let's all us. We'll trade with them if they want. Big deal. It's just lolsies. Umbrella-wise, most people came in day one for a lot of salt, but there hasn't really been any salt from anybody, and it really just a non-issue. Like, we announced expecting a lot of drama and a lot of salt, and people really encountered anything. It's been well wishes or otherwise relative peace. We're building up a nice community. Activity that we've been frankly missing for quite some time. People have picked in the 2 duchies that we are essentially thinking of as our own, or at least part of us, or as allies of us. For Moonhaven, interestingly enough, someone has picked the city in Moonhaven, and they're the only pick. And they made a recruitment post recently with declaring that they are part of Kairos. We haven't gotten in contact with them at all. I'm personally waiting to see what they do. More so, interesting thing that's happened, and I'm really curious if it was intentional or if this person that picked just wasn't paying attention to the current.
I think though, didn't they state that they consider themselves to be a part of Kairos? And is it something that you would rather kind of like see, if we're, let's say, just for argument's sake, this is kind of like a whole different discussion that we won't get into, but let's say for argument's sake, the game isn't going to start for another 2 to 3 years since we're not even in Alpha 1 yet. Is it something that you think you would wait and see what happens, or try and convert them to become a, what do you call yourself, Solaris?
Lions. I don't know if we have a necessarily came up with a term yet. Whatever the community eventually decides sounds the best is probably what I'm going with. So in the recruitment post, they actually didn't say anything about Solaris. There was nothing else. It was basically just like, we hope all the Genoans get along, and it's just that's what leads me to believe maybe they just weren't paying attention. I know personally my stance, and this is not a unified stance for Solaris, we haven't discussed it yet, like how we're gonna handle it. But for me, I think we're just leave it alone. We're happy to work with them. We're, again, the whole way. if they're gonna be friendly and they're gonna play nice, then that's fine. At the end of the day, we really just want to be left alone by them, insofar as hostilities are concerned. So whatever gets us to that point is sort of what I'm interested in. Even if they want to go ahead and set up shop in one of those places, as long as they're willing to be friendly with us, then we're good with it. If they want to be hostile with us, I think it's a different story.
Yeah, I get that. Renegade, do you have any questions of Cynric or any observations about Solaris and the situation?
Whole with the Moonhaven thing, like if they really are ignorant of the situation, would you prefer to bring them into Kairos? Oh. Are we back? And of course, I'm smoking.
Had to happen once.
And there we go. Alrighty.
Nailed it.
Excellent. So, I think Renegade was in the middle of asking Cynric something. Let's go back to that.
Yeah, I asked if Moonhaven is really truly ignorant about what actually is going on, if you'd prefer them to join you or just would rather them stay with Kyra.
I mean, ultimately, I think the preference is for them to come join us, mostly because Moonhaven is super landlocked, so them actually being able to grow or get support from Kairos is going to be exponentially travel time. So I would ideally like them to be part of Solaris because we could actually provide them a lot of support and help. So in a sort of in their own best interest kind of thing, and not like unless they're willing to be friendly. I don't really have a problem with it. I'm not as happy with it just because it's a little like a dick move to me, but this is mostly my opinion. Oh goddamn! But this isn't like a council opinion. This is just my thoughts. We haven't actually discussed anything yet.
Gotcha. Yeah, we often get asked on our stance, oh, well, alliance with Kairos, who are you more aligned with, etc., etc. And I want to clarify it because we had it wasn't this past weekend, but the weekend before, I went into the COE voice Discord and we made our statement asked like 3 times in a row, the exact same question. And each of the 3 times I gave him the exact same answer. And people were going, wow, he's already answered that. And it was like, D, what's your stance? What's your political stance? And I want to make clear that my opinion is, I can only give what my political stance is today. I don't have a crystal ball that can tell me, and I don't believe anybody else has a crystal ball that can 100% guarantee is going to be when game. If the game was to start tomorrow, is the best way that I can phrase it. We had an alliance with Cynric and with Kairos when it was still all part of Kairos, and as far as we're concerned, so I'm really clear on that. We don't changed. It's not that we want to play both sides of the fence. We don't have any need. We don't have any territorial ambitions on the period. We want to be able to research ships and kind of like join the kind of like the land rush for the lost continents and the lost tribes and try get our fair share of there are meant to be resources that won't be on the starting continent. It's like it's like discovering the Americas or the passage to China kind of. we don't want to get mired down, for want of a better word, in fights and squabbles, etc., on the starting continent. So we've made it clear that under no intent do we intend to bring troops into Kairos. You know, something again might change politically, but I really don't foresee that. It is not in our interest in the slightest bit whatsoever. In fact, that's the bit that I answered to the guy 3 times in the COE Discord. It's in the kingdom to our west. Somebody posted in their kingdom Discord, guys, said he's going to be sending troops straight into Kairos. And I'm like, all I can do is freaking facepalm. It's, intentional shit stirring, or somebody's just being dumb, or, in my opinion, potentially a combination of the two. So
very clumsy dancing.
Yeah. So it's like, if Solaris, we prefer that if there was kind of like, for want of a better word, a civil war or whatever between Solaris and Kairos, we would prefer to stay out of it, to be quite honest. We would rather that it's something that they deal with internally. If Kairos was losing and they were to invite us to come defend them, we would probably decline. If especially if Solaris was to invade them, really, that scenario shouldn't be cropping up in the first place. But if Kairos was to invade Solaris, again, we prefer that Solaris handle it themselves. But if Solaris was to ask and say, hey, D, we're kind of getting overrun here, will you come and help us? We will unequivocally, for me to phrase that, we're going to support the people that we think kind of like, are doing what was in the best interest for their community and keep things going and active. And again, no disrespect, if we were to get attacked, and this is kind of like, perhaps just a political or a strategic move, we want to have as our kind of like, if we had to choose, and we don't want to, if we had to choose between the two, we'd rather have the people that kind of like respond to our PMs like within an hour or two, rather than kind of like in months' time. It's, you want to have somebody that's hopefully as weird as it might sound, I think that this is actually a very, very beneficial move, funny enough, for Kairos. More active, and he's delegated more stuff to Kairos, and Kairos itself has become more energized in terms of recruiting and everything. Like, it's almost like a win-win situation, especially if they can get along together and forge kind of like a, as I say, some kind of alliance, but time will tell on that. Do you have any questions? What Bordwall's current stance is on that?
No, I mean, I honestly knew what your current stance was. I mean, we've been friends for, I don't know, a year and a half now. We worked together pretty going in. I mean, I wouldn't have even considered Solaris without knowing Board's stance before we committed to Solaris. Because, I mean, obviously, if you're like, oh man, we're going to go pro Kairos, then I'd be like, well, if Board is backing Kairos super hard and not us, then like, it's impossible that we could ever survive. But the fact that Bordwall's taking a more neutral stance, or at least a pro Solaris stance, if we get invaded and our shit is getting pushed in and we ask for help, then I think that really gives us if need be, in terms of how it handles a breakaway if Kairos decides to be aggressive. So no, I went into all of this knowing your exact stance. I'm more surprised that it surprises other people. or that it surprises other people to think that like we had ever been friends. I'm like, I don't know how to be more open that we have been in any way. It's
Yeah, I've had people kind of like message me and say, well, you guys are the reason that Kairos broke up. And I'm like, what the fuck are you on about? It's like, I had nothing to do with this, but,
You can't blame the neighbor for a divorce.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's kind of amusing, I guess, that, that's all part, particularly, with domain and settlement selection going on. I think there's obviously, the hypers. A lot of people have come back and kind of like, woken up out of hibernation for domain and settlement selection. And, along with that comes a lot of drama. You've had somebody place there in Moonhaven. We've had a couple of randoms place, with our king. See how it fleshes out. I'm also the opinion of, we'll see how it goes kind of thing. In fact, I think it was only yesterday or the day before, there was the whole thing with Gin and the Tavern. That was a big thing, a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not wanting to open that back up. I want to make that absolutely clear. But, one thing that I want to illustrate on that is like, if we had intent of Gin's Tavern and everything like that, one of the first things we would have done was to have claimed that county. And in fact, I think that county only got claimed, I think, yesterday or the day before. So not a high priority thing for us. In fact, as far as Gin's Tavern itself is concerned, it's not a high priority. It's not a priority period at all. We're basically, securing the counties around the kingdom capital, and we've kind of like, done that to the south, the east, the west, and the north. Now there is, I think, one still, actually two unclaimed that should be claimed this week. They were done by mayors who are upgrading to county packages, so that'll be taken care of as well.
Yeah, I do want to say one thing about the Gin and Tavern stuff, which has nothing to do with Gin or the Tavern, but it's just my appreciation for Noslim and his ridiculously southern idioms.
For his what, sorry?
Ridiculously southern idioms, his sayings.
Oh, yes. Yeah. it brings out the best in Noslim, is what it does, is how we phrase it. Let's see. So moving on, what other drama have you seen or foresee happening in the remaining kind of like week or two of domain and settlement selection? Renegade, what are your thoughts on?
In regards to drama in it, I mean, I've seen a lot of people coming out of the woodwork and be like, hey, I should pick a place to live now. I should probably ask people. I've seen that happen a couple times. It's happened a couple times to me where somebody's come to me like, hey, I want to live near you. And I was like, hi. But I think it's been mostly drama free, and the people who have gone and done like placements, I feel I'm not allowed outside very much because things get, then the stream goes down.
Yep. We've had, I think for domain and settlement selection, we actually had, let's see, we had one count who wasn't like really a count of ours, but he approached us, and he had like 6 counties, and he was looking at a placing within Blood Oak, so we reserved 6 counties for him. He ended up moving to, funny enough, down to Solaris. He ended up placing with you guys, Cineric. What had happened was, I try to be available throughout the 18 hours per day that the domain and settlement selection is live, but I'm West Coast, so my time is off a little bit. So he shot me a message at 2:30 a.m. in the morning while I was asleep, saying, "Oh, hey, I just want to confirm that I can place in this, and this county." And I, slacker that I am, only woke up at 4 a.m. that morning to handle county placements. And when I messaged him back at 4 a.m., he'd actually already placed in Solaris. So it was like, damn, we lost one there. And then we had a countess, really, really nice countess, who had only just come to us literally right before domain and settlement selection. And she was going to place with us and went to, I think she placed with the Bombastus up in Zilphania, up in our neighbors to the north in Alicia there, which was fine because she had always wanted a county right on the coast. And she was able to secure that there with Bombastus. So we obviously wish her nothing but the best in doing so. So yeah, other than that, things have been going good. We got a little bit poked. No, it wasn't Renegade, thankfully. We got we had some fun poked at us about our map where we have things reserved on there, and that at the end of count selection week, that not all of them were claimed, but it was never claimed. We never made the claim that they would be claimed during count week. We have, in fact, I think we've claimed 3 or 4 of them just in the first couple of days of mayor selection week. And there, I think, are still a few more to be claimed. And then, as the post that I made stated, we're also going to be purchasing some of them during reverse auction. Again, with a couple of people kind of I think we're good again, right? Okay. So yeah, so I think we're all good. It's I think the internet is famous for basically having its trolls and people who just seem to just be amazingly gleeful when somebody else's plans aren't quite going according to that. But I think that again, it kind of like says more about them than it does about us. We haven't kind of like memed back
according to plan, though. That's the thing.
It is basically going according to plan. I think one of the things, and we were sharing this before the show, and I don't want to dwell on this because we actually need to be moving on to a couple of the other topics, is we intentionally kind of like ran lean on countesses and counts because during the recruitment phase, when we started 2 years ago, we were told basically by Soulbound Studios that when the count packages are gone and they're not for sale, that's it, they're done, and that's kind of like how you'll be going for PC counties during Kingdoms of Illyria, etc., etc. And so we decided to kind of like to run leaner on counts and countesses that could all get along well together and basically capture NPC counties. So when all of a sudden it's like, whoa, okay, now there's going to be a reverse auction, now there's this and that, it's a little difficult for us to kind of like make up that lost ground, but we're gonna do the best with the situation that happened. We actually think we turned, just in Blood Oak, I think I turned away around about 22 counts and countesses that we thought were fine and everything like that, but just not quite what we were looking for, and we were kind of like being picky, which in hindsight was, because we didn't know about the reverse auction, was probably being overly 2 to 3 counties each, so that they'd have enough resources, enough land, enough space to not be PvPing internally within a duchy. And again, that changed. I get that to a certain extent. So yeah, it's tis what it is. Noz, do either of you have any other comments? I think we're kind of like moving off from the drama thing, and we're going to go to the other parts of the program that we were going to do.
I think the only drama I foresee is seeing just how many mayors just didn't pick. Like the total number of like counts and dukes that hasn't picked has been pretty high. I can only mayors that haven't picked, and how like that's going to be pretty dramatic.
Yes, and I want to actually address something just stated in the chat. Forgive me if I mispronounce your name. I think it's Exinerian, perhaps. And that is, there are days, I swear, when I think that Blah might be the smartest of all the monarchs out there. We'll let things kind of like come together, kind of like the way it's going to come together. And when game starts, it's game on, and we'll sort the shit out from there, kind of thing. Obviously, they're going to be doing some of that stuff once they find out who's where. Another thing, I want to go on the record, because this has been stated so many times. Bordweall has not placed a duchy in Fortuna. I will repeat slowly. Bordweall has not placed a duchy in Fortuna, because that's another one of those stupid rumors done by the shit stirrers. They had all of their duchies spoken for, and now they've placed 2 in Fortuna. No, we haven't. If we had duchies available, we would have claimed the 2 that we have still to claim in Bordweall, especially having found out that with the Settlers of Illyria event coming, that some of the duchies that have not been claimed will actually be reserved for NPC duchies. And so, we certainly, hope most people can understand the logic that it is better to have all of your duchies claimed than most of them, and have a few available for whatever reason, whether it's a random that would maybe snipe it during reverse auction before we could purchase it or something like that,
I'm actually surprised by the number, like the lack of rogue placements. Like, I think that speaks volumes about the development of the community. And I think where Fortuna, I think, was how they had more imagined all of this happening. It just, to me, it speaks a lot about the Chronicles of Illyria community, that we built this together and people have really stuck to the plan. And honestly, with the limited number of those rogue placements, I really do suspect that they might have just been the ignorant ones, that they didn't know. There could be some that aren't, but to me, it says that people value the communities they're part of more than being disruptive. And I think that speaks about the lack of toxicity we hopefully will see.
Yeah, I think so. And actually, I think I can speak to that as well, because where we had some, counts and a countess leave Bordweall, we've also had four counts join us this week. And they were, to me, they were all, fairly, they came in, they were kind of like, oh, hey, I want to place with you guys. I saw your map. I saw the green areas, and, could I place here, or could I place there, or where could I place that it isn't going to disrupt you? And, to me, that's brilliant stuff. I mean, it's for us as a community, it doesn't matter whether you kind of like being with us again for a day or two, or with us for years. We welcome those people. It's just a matter of communication, and that's, to me, that is kind of like common sense stuff. Other people can argue that they do what they want, but again, there wasn't going to be a win-win situation on this. And I think the people that are asking whether they're coming to Bordweall or whether they're going to any of the other kingdoms on any of the other servers, I think it's just kind of like say, hey, love your community. I've been watching your chat for, XYZ amount of time. And, where can I fit in that isn't going to disrupt you guys? I mean, to me, that kind of works.
I want to talk about pictures.
I mean, I agree. I mean, it's such a large amount of money that I think people aren't going to just troll people. You know, after spending like $3,000 or however many dollars they're spending. I think maybe when we see Dutch auction, we might see a bit of trolling because, you know, that's like a little mayor or something. But like, I don't think you'll see $300 or more trolls. It's you know, if you do, they're more one-offs than they are the.
Yeah, yeah, more than likely. But again, you know, I don't put it past, somebody wanting to do that, whether they pull their money or something and they say, hey, let's troll, XYZ Kingdom on XYZ server and buy a county, and we'll all roll a bunch of alts and just have fun and shits and giggles, there. So, there's no way of telling, right? You know, it's a thing. Oh, don't even get me started on name approvals. Not going there. We mentioned that a little bit in the last stream. We're going to kind of bypass that one. Noz, if you can throw up the images, the couple of images we said we were going to put up, we can quickly look on that. And Ren and Cineric in particular, I want you to comment on these when they come up.
Oh, I just got so excited when I saw these pictures. I wish they would have been renders, though. I really do. I wanted to see a render of it. So this is a Hoth3 delving settlement. They talked about how Hoth3 would use like natural formed crystals to refract light, which I thought was really interesting because I thought they were going to just go. I was surprised that there were more windows on the inside than the outside ones for Hoth3 settlements. Like they like light more when they're inside.
I think this is probably one of my favorite pieces of concept art. It's certainly the most detailed and defined, and I think it's the most aesthetically pleasing that I've seen them. I kind of want to see more of this style concept art for the other tribes and how they live, because while we got some idea of like the architecture, I don't think we really got the thematics with just architecture concept designs alone. And I feel like this concept art really puts in perspective how the architecture is used more than just here it is.
Like Roman dwarves.
Yeah.
Roman dwarves. Very strong feeling here.
Yeah, to me it was I don't know why, but it was kind of like it really sparked again kind of like, emotions and passion with me. It was, I like the concept art that we saw for the Bordweall and the Torresk and the things like that. But this one was like, we're so far away from it. But this was like, man, this is fucking cool. Was my first reaction to it,
Yeah,
it kind of like it leaves me with hope that, and Snipe Hunter is kind of like, intimated about this and kind of like hinted at it, that we will be able to build, they won't necessarily be with frothy architecture, but we will be able to build, even if we're not up in the mountains or whatever, we will be able to build, underground caverns and put in support beams and everything like that, So I think that people should take a little bit of heart that even when I look at the swamp plans and everything, where you think, wow, they're fucked, they won't be able to do anything like that. There are so many hills and so many kind of like low mountains and everything in the swamp lands that I think, it will definitely be possible to do. The difference is, oh my God, how much labor is going to be taken to like excavate a cavern versus, having one that's already pre-built kind of thing. The other thing that I have as a question is, with seeing so many capitals, and this isn't just on our server, but this is just kind of like in general, when I look at all the delvings and I see that some of them are kind of like, God knows, 200 parcels of land or whatever the case might be. What if that cave isn't 200 parcels large? You know, do you by default lose any overflow parcels? Do those parcels get added to the ground above your delving, or to the side of it, outside, etc.? You know, to me, that's kind of like a speculative thing, right? What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Keep in mind, parcels are vertical too. So a delving could be just a very deep, narrow city. It doesn't necessarily have to sprawl. And I think that is actually probably what you're going to see more commonly in delving cities. You're not going to see sprawling. You're going to see verticality in those cities.
I wonder, because of how much they would need support structures under. I wonder what the state of those structures would be. Like how, like the further you get out from the city to more like the outskirts, or what would be like the badlands of any sort of city. Normally you would expect to see a bit more decay than the interior. So I wonder, are all the support structures in the cavern built equally for these very large capitals, or are they built not so equally, and some of them are maybe falling apart?
Yeah, that gets into the architectural support. Like in a lot of sandbox survival games, buildings have support in how you build. They're more piecemeal. I think this is going to be within the architecture tool. You probably can't build something that's not architecturally sound, doesn't have support. And so being able to place those, I don't think we're going to see any collapses in the cave systems. I just don't think they're going to calculate that in. I think it'd be more work than necessary. So as long as the buildings are sound, I don't see any reason, if you have the space, why you wouldn't be able to build them.
Yeah. And somebody was asking in there, will there be Balrogs? Well, there won't be Balrogs by that name, but they have stated that. Yeah, there'll be daemons, demons, however you want to pronounce them. We will
totally
have
not
those
dragons.
Yeah. Yep. So we have 10 minutes or so left before the top of the hour. Let us move. Oh, if you can show the other image as well, please. There we go. The thing that I liked, and I understand that this is not a rendering. I understand it is concept art, so that it would show this way anyway. But what I really liked in this particular image was how the walls blend into the, how they clip into the sides of the mountains. And that was something that I really liked in Life is Feudal. It's something that I liked in Conan Exiles. And I'm certainly hoping that, how the walls clip in, because there are some MMOs that I've played where,
there's no clipping at all.
Yeah, this ground is not even. You cannot place here. And theoretically you shouldn't be able to get through, but if you point your character's nose in a certain direction and lean down and crouch against the wall and start hopping and spamming the jump bar, he'll magically teleport. I think we did that in Gloria Victis. We were able to do that through some of the log walls and everything like that, and so I hope that we don't get that kind of glitching and exploiting, basically, for want of a better word, in game.
And just to touch on something with this structure, even though this is their outside, not delving cities, it's still very much, you can see that their buildings, their living spaces are all internal. So it is kind of like they've made caves outside. Like in other settlements, you'll see more outside structures. This is structures outside with everything internal. Like there's no outside to H3 settlements. And I think that's probably based on the environment. Like you don't want to be outside. It's cold.
Yeah, and I think people are making good comments, and it's something that's been a thing of mine, is that, I'm not sure that trebuchets and things like that, I don't think we'll have the mechanics, because there's no terraforming. I don't think you'll have the mechanics of terrain being demolished. And so I think, people that have terrain where they can bury and tunnel underground and things like that, it's the classic, you have a large settlement that's basically easily defensible because of just, several choke points in and out. And I think that's what we're going to see.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely the Herothi are probably going to be the most defensible. And certainly with the amount of capitals, if they can make them sustainable, that's really a terrifying idea, just because of how defensible and essentially like, Herothi can be by themselves at this point with how many people they have, how their buildings are made. They're certainly in a unique situation that I don't think any other tribe really has the same level.
I think defensively, yes, but I don't think this is something like, I don't think they could push out easily and put these cities up. Like, there's some of these buildings that look like they're far easier to make than others. Hathri settlements don't look like they're the kind of thing that could pop up overnight, where you would see, it's not the Weird, but it's the other desert tribe, like the Areshi, that they're traveling, and all of a sudden there could be a huge Areshi settlement, and there wasn't one the day before. But you wouldn't see that with Hathri.
That's fair.
Yeah, if somebody's asking if you could seal the entrance or block the entrance. Again, I don't think we know enough about the mechanics there, Sotha. I think that to build something, you would probably need permission from the owner of the parcel. You would either have to be the owner of the parcel, or they will have had to have clicked something, on their parcel UI or something like that would allow you, joint ownership or permissions to build on there. So I think that, I think that if you're the defender and you own the parcel, you might be able to brick it up with a very, very thick wall, especially in a curve in the tunnel, so to speak, or the entrance, where siege engines wouldn't have a direct line of fire on it, etc. But I don't think attackers would be able to seal them in and basically wall them up and starve them, kind of thing,
Yeah.
Yeah, Zimmer's saying adverse possession. Yeah, you'd have to lay siege there for 28 days non-stop to own that. And I think that if you're deep in frothy territory, you'd be evicted long before those 28 days came around. Mr. Odelot is asking, can you dig under someone else's property? Again, something that we had thought about in doing. It's like, wow, shit, you just tunnel in through the side of the thing.
They've said yes on that, because they've said specifically you can dig under somebody else's structures and they might not even know you're there, especially because parcels are vertical.
I thought that they were not going to be able to. So that would be something to find out. Maybe you just have to dig below their 64 meter by 64 meter by 64 meter cube, right? But then how would you break into their cube if it's kind of like sovereign land kind of thing,
I don't know.
So that'll be interesting. Let us move on to, because we only got like 5 to 7 minutes left. Let's move on to Kickstarter. What people thought about the Kickstarter stuff. I don't know if you have a page for the Kickstarter up, Noz. Brendan Cinerick, lead off the convo here about Kickstarter. Kickstarterversary is actually is how I should phrase it.
So I think the rewards this time are neat. I haven't really come to like a real opinion on what I think about them. I'm kind of a little bit sketchy on them. I think they're in some ways too good, especially like the gliders. I would kind of like those to be more of an in-game thing rather than discovered now. I think that's a significant game changer for many people. So I'm a little bit meh. But I think their structure of how they're doing the sale is probably better. It'll definitely better funding wise. But I'll let Renegade talk more about the items first.
As for the rewards, I think the rewards are just community-wide. Just gives everybody in the community something. As for the items that they're currently selling, I wish they would move away from doing biome-specific items, because it really, I think it limits sales. If they were to do something like, so the clothing one, for example, is tropical clothing. If that would have been like citizen clothing for any environment, that would have, I think, would have been a little bit better, more people would have been interested in it, because you might think the clothing looks really cool, but you probably can't wear it if you live anywhere temperate or cold. Same thing with like the forest farming kit, like that specifically. If you don't have forest, it's not any worth to you. Like, there's plenty of people who like farming, just put farming kits back in, and they would say, that's just my complaint in general with biome specific stuff. It's too easy to buy something and go, well, this is now worthless to me. But like the cats, there's battle cats. You can ride cats into battle. That's really exciting. And those, you can see the four different biome. They're not biome. It's like heat type cats. So that was exciting. I don't know why they have cannibalism on there.
Yeah, I was, when I looked at it and looked it over, there were, several things for me. I'm somebody who loves the gliders, but I did not. And again, it was never, I was under the impression, is probably the best way to phrase it. I was under the impression that the gliders would be something that, you would be able to develop the tech for, 6, 7, 8 years into the 10-year storyline. Is it going to be good to have them at the beginning? Yeah, I don't know. To me, it was like one of those things that you kind of like you work towards and you earn, kind of thing, The thing that I did like to see were the tournament tokens. What I particularly liked about the tournament tokens, and I've been a huge advocate of this for quite a long time, and have made the suggestions a number of times. In fact, I wish they'd done it for the Sunstone thing, etc. Is that they are, with the tournament token, anybody has a chance of winning, and this to me is so important for a community crowdfunding thing. And kudos to Soulbound Studios for finally fucking getting this, in my opinion, for finally getting this fucking right. Because previously what you had is, okay, we have this thing, whether it's the Sunstone or whether it's this or whether it's that, everybody can buy them, but only the one person that gathered the most of them or had the most of them, donated to them, etc., wins. And, that basically left it in the territory of the whales. And I'm a whale myself, I'm a monarch, so I'm not kind of like bashing on whales. We have our role and part to play in the game as well. But this has basically opened it up to every single person that can spend or wants to spend $10 on the game. And I think, just like in a lottery in real life, if you buy more tickets, you increase your chance of winning, but it doesn't guarantee you the chance of winning. Whereas previously, it's like you bought tickets, right? But you weren't really in a lottery, because the winner was automatically the person who bought the most tickets. I love the way that they've done this, and I hope that they stay with this format for everybody in the future, because I think this is the way that you motivate and keep kind of like, some of the people on the lower end of the scale of what their budget is towards supporting this game, of how you keep them also motivated. It's not just about kind of like, the people with the fat wallets. I've got a chance at this as well,
Yeah, and it's also just a better way to buy EP right now. Like, incrementally, it's as efficient as buying the 3K pack, just for the amount that you spend. So not only are you buying EP, you're also buying into a raffle, and then I think you also get like the ingredients with it. So that's the way to go if you're thinking about buying EP, buy those tickets instead, because they're just more economically efficient to do that.
Yeah, I think from now on, if they're going to do more of these big server-wide raffles or whatever, this is the exact way I want to see it. And I don't know if I really want them to stray too much from this as an idea, because I think it's great for people that are buying in that don't care necessarily about winning or giving to anybody else. It gets them to buy and have this conversation on trading and all of that. It makes people that don't have, tens of thousands of dollars feel like they can compete. We saw this with like the Raiders, where everyone was just like, I don't want to participate. I don't got this money to pay, so what's the point? And so most people just didn't participate. So the fact that they're doing this is great. I think it involves the whole community rather than just a select community at all levels, because it's valuable for them in the EP, and everyone that actually is vying for it has the same chance of winning per token.
Yeah, and I think, when you saw us Nos going into the store there, I think you see that, we should be hitting the 7 million mark. So, grats to the studio on hitting that milestone when we do, which should literally be within a matter of days. And grats and kudos to the entire community for doing that. It's, I'm always a proponent of kind of like us crowdsourcing and crowdfunding the project as much as possible for as long as possible to keep it independent. That will not, and I think those of you that follow the channel or kind of like, keep up with current events, that will not preclude me from calling out the studio if I think that they're really fucking up on something. But, I want the project and I want the studio to be successful. I did not donate my own money, which was a fairly substantial sum, in the hopes of seeing it fail. So, I will do, what am I trying to say? I'm more than happy to see these kind of changes, for want of a better word. I think they're positive. And I hope that it's kind of like, a good sign of things to come is probably the best way for me to phrase it. Anybody else have anything? Because we just ran over the 1 hour mark. Anybody else have anything to add? Ren or Cineric in closing?
Oh, I'm always excited to see new things, and I'm glad that they're showing us new things. Just a couple things, like don't do the biome specific stuff, but please give us new toys, because everybody loves toys. We're like kids in candy shops.
They're going to be adding new stuff every day, though.
So I know.
I think we'll get kind of like a nice variety and everything, And I just want to put in a quick plug. There's just came up on there from Stream Elements, was our link to our Patreon page. If you want to, I think donate $1 a month, $5. There are various amounts. It is so important for us to have that support, to be able to kind of like get the software and the time and some of the things that are needed to produce the things that we do produce. So I want to thank all of you that are helping and supporting our stream and kind of like our community in general through the Patreon project. It really means a lot to us, and it truly is priceless. Cineric, anything for you to add before we sign off?
I'm kind of wanting to see more biome-specific stuff, mostly because all of the previous sales have been generally not the rainforest biome in terms of items. Certainly, like in terms of like animals and pets, that's where I really want the most things, and I want to see more of like all you talk about is how dangerous the animals are in the jungle, and I just want to see those animals. Like, what are my unique animals that I gotta?
Got a kitty.
Yeah, but a lot of people also got kitties. Where's my foxalots, or all of those things that can go and live in the jungle? Where's those things? Those cute pets.
You got to train.
I gotta trade.
You want your turn, but once you get your turn, no more biome specific stuff.
No, everyone should get a turn. Everyone should have the turn for getting their biome specific kitties. Or whatever small furry animal you.
Any last words from you, Ren?
More rideable kitties.
More rideable kitties. All right. I think you're going to have a kitty breeding farm there. Thank you, everybody, for watching and supporting us as always. And we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks when we do our next stream. Take care, everybody. Special thanks to Cineric and Renegade for being guests. To our moderators, Alex and Kat in the text chat, and to Noslim, our producer. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time, guys. Thank you.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.